Hello, I'm Nat Young and welcome to the 51%, a show about women reshaping our world. Coming up, is your car private or public space? That's a thorny question currently being asked in Iran over the veil, and whether women should wear the compulsory hijab in their cars or not. Also, we head to Brazil, where an astonishing 36% of young women under the age of 18 are married, and ask why in 2017 it's still so culturally acceptable. And becoming a hot shot in the ring, how female wrestling is fast becoming a crowd pleaser in the UK. But we begin in Iran, where the hijab or veil has been compulsory for women in public since 1979. However, a growing number are refusing to comply while driving. The big question is whether a car is indeed a private space where women can dress more freely. Now, according to authorities in the Islamic Republic, that is certainly not the case. Reza Sayar has more.
Fariba Abbasi is a makeup artist in Tehran. She does most of her work in the privacy of her own home. And when she goes out in public, she always covers her hair with the hijab. In the Islamic Republic of Iran, that's the law. Ignore the law and you could face fines, even imprisonment. But when inside a car, Abbasi says Iran's hijab law should not apply.
I don't think anyone who is without the hijab in a car should be arrested or put in jail. No country should be like that.
Abbasi is among many liberal women in Iran who believe the car, just like one's home, is a private space where authorities have no right to intrude. With Tehran's stifling summer temperatures soaring above 40, the debate over hijabs is heating up too. Whether it's their way of cooling off or making a statement, many women drivers can be seen with hijabs only partially covering their hair. Some dare to go without it.
Freedom is the best way. When there's freedom, there are fewer problems.
Iran's clerical establishment says there is no debate. In his Friday prayer speech, conservative cleric Ayatollah Ali Mohammadi Kermani said the hijab is a pillar of the Islamic Revolution. He urged authorities to reinforce the hijab law, including inside cars. Iran's laws on the hijab inside cars can seem contradictory. One law says cars are private spaces. Iran's constitution says private spaces must be respected. However, 2 years ago, the parliament passed a bill explicitly declaring cars public spaces. Human rights lawyer Mahmoud Qomshal says it's that one law that legally requires women inside cars to wear the hijab.
Since it's the most recent law, it has nullified all previous laws and deemed cars public spaces. The security establishment and the judiciary are using this law to treat cars as public spaces. That's why we see security forces inspect cars without a warrant.
Conservative Iranians say the law makes sense. It protects the hijab as a symbol of modesty.
I think the hijab doesn't need a special time and place. Those with faith know the hijab is always necessary. It's not just about cars.
Two views, one liberal, one conservative, that will likely keep the hijab a source of tension among Iranians.
And staying in the region, and she's been accused of blasphemy and is no stranger to controversy. Egyptian cartoonist Doya El Adel tackles everything from sexual harassment through to Donald Trump's international outbursts. Now her cartoons are to be made available in a book dedicated to women's rights.
She's one of Egypt's most famous cartoonists, and she's not afraid of the taboo. In a country where sexism is deeply rooted in the media, Doya El Adel's drawings confront it head-on, tackling subjects like female circumcision and marriage and divorce stereotypes. Her new book, 50 Cartoons and More About Women, illustrates the political, social and economic struggles of women in Egypt and elsewhere.
The book started with the typical daily challenges faced by working women, like being female, a wife and mother, and the many responsibilities. The attitudes people might have towards infertile women in the Egyptian upper class, what society thinks of divorced, overweight, or dark-skinned women. These problems might seem simple compared to facing crimes like rape, harassment, and circumcision. But they are also problems that women face every day.
El Adel says her focus changes daily, inspired by current affairs and what they reveal about women and their status, from events like International Women's Day to the global refugee crisis. El Adel likes to use the exposure she's gained to stand up for the underdog, her personal experiences bringing extra depth to her drawings.
Cartoon is the channel through which I can deliver my message. I'm concerned about women's rights because I'm a female cartoonist. At the beginning of my career, I was unsure of what my role should be, but eventually I knew I had to make a difference as a female cartoonist. That's why the women's causes depicted in my cartoons are an integral part of me. I have faced many of these situations myself.
With the power of her pen, Doa El Adel brings a much-needed force to be reckoned with in a country where UN research shows over 99% of women have experienced some form of sexual harassment.
Now to Brazil, which boasts an alarming yet underreported statistic. That is, 36% of Brazilian girls are married before their 18th birthday. The country has the highest number of child marriages in Latin America and ranks 4th in the world. Now, while global attention focuses on parts of Africa and Southeast Asia, Brazil is markedly absent in those campaigns. Our team on the ground sent through this report on why child marriage in the country is still common.
A few kilometres from São Luís in the northeast of Brazil, the Maranhão region is the most poverty-stricken in the country. In the house given to her by her husband, Ariane, nonetheless, thinks she has done well.
This is our bedroom, and that's my daughter who's just woken up.
She has been a mother for 2 years, and yet has only just turned 18. She already has a long adult life behind her.
Oh, I've been living as a couple for a long time. About 5 years, I think. Ever since I was 12. This is my husband. He's 44.
There's a 26-year age gap between her and her husband.
He asked my mother and father if he could be with me, and they said yes.
Were they not worried that you were still a child?
No, they didn't care. They were only interested in my little sister.
At the time, the union was illegal, given that the law forbids marriage for minors under the age of 16. Whether they are official or not, like Ariane, 36% of Brazilian girls enter into a partnership before their 18th birthday. The country has the highest number of child marriages in Latin America. Josiane and her association are the first to have denounced this situation.
You know, it's important to go back to school. Would you like to?
No. This is Jose, 34, and Maria, 15, who is pregnant with her second child.
I'm happy now, because when I lived with my mother, my stepfather would come home drunk and hit my mother. And one time, we were making coffee and he took the coffee pot and threw it at my child.
Given the lack of social services, getting married or living with an older man is often the only alternative to domestic violence and financial precarity. Partnerships and marriages that are considered voluntary and rarely reported to the authorities.
They get away with it simply because the people around them and society let them. It's become normal to everybody, so it's not considered illegal. We need people to know that it is forbidden by law and that these young girls have other options than marriage.
To prolong childhood a little longer for these young girls, the association tries to raise awareness of emancipation through sport, education, and the right to choose motherhood or not.
I don't want to get married. I want to enjoy my teenage years.
Lessons that the association would like to give in state schools throughout the country, in order to encourage as many young girls as possible not to say the famous "I do" too early.
And finally, when it comes to martial arts, female divisions still languish at professional levels. But a new trend for women's pro wrestling could be about to change that. The Netflix production Glow follows a group of women who take to the ring in 1980s LA, and the success of the TV series has indeed sparked new interest in the sport. Olivia Salazar-Winspear checks out an all-woman event in London.
By day, Claire Heaford is a personal trainer. By night, she's Muñeca del Trapo, a Day of the Dead-style heroine who's a force to be reckoned with in the ring. She's just one of the performers at Eve, an all-female wrestling show that's drawing the crowds in London.
So when I came across wrestling, it was like this art form that was all about confrontation and like really standing up for yourself. It wasn't a form of communication I'd ever come across before, but I felt like there was something in it that would really help me in my personal life and in business moving forward.
These fights are staged, but the risks are very real at the UK's first exclusively female pro wrestling event.
This show is all about the women wrestlers, and it really does basically highlight how good women's wrestling can be.
The sport's long been popular in the US. Now it's gaining new fans in the UK, thanks to an American import courtesy of Netflix.
Lady wrestlers, I get it. Women can do anything men do, blah, blah, blah.
You hiring actors to play wrestlers, or are we the wrestlers?
Go! Yes.
Glow follows a group of female wrestlers in the 1980s, and it inspired actress Kate Nash.
Because we filmed Glow last year, and I just have got the wrestling bug after filming it, so I just wanted to come down and check it out and see like the London wrestling scene.
It's existed for almost a century, but female wrestling was banned in London until the 1980s. Now the popularity of this self-styled feminist punk rock event suggests it's back with a vengeance.
And that's it for now. And if you'd like to comment on what you've just seen, you can head to our Facebook page and tell us what you think. And that, of course, being France24.51%, or do send us a tweet at _51%. Thanks for your feedback so far. And please do keep those comments and suggestions coming in. So until our next show, bye for now.